Today we are going to discuss Hegel, the philosopher who influenced Karl Marx so much and thereby influenced the history of the world. There are 2 points we are discussing in the context of ethics and philosophy. His famous book is Phenomenology of Spirit. Phenomenology of Spirit. The word phenomenology came from Kant. And who said that we only know the phenomena and never a thing in itself because of our limitations of the senses and the way the mind works. So, accepting Kant, Hegel titles his book Phenomenology of Spirit, not the reality of the spirit. But what is the spirit he is talking about? The spirit he is talking about is not easy to understand. To make it easier, I covered shell rag before. Because spirit that he is talking about, that Hegel is talking about, is something like collective mind, collective consciousness. So that is the spirit. This is the one that works through individuals. Closer to what Sheldrake talked about years later. But where did Hegel get this idea? This collective mind and collective consciousness is a religious idea. Definitely it is there in Buddhism. So, Hegel is saying that the spirit, the collective mind and collective consciousness has been changing. But changing through what? Through a process he called dialectics. He said, idea one, you call it thesis. There is one idea that will be accepted. But then after some time, people will realize that that idea is not applicable in certain ranges. Then its opposite idea emerges. But later, people have a superior understanding of thesis and antithesis, in which can be called synthesis. Synthesis is something where the ideas of thesis and antithesis exist in a way that contradictions are resolved, or it is realized that the contradictions in the first place are illusory. So, thesis and antithesis becoming synthesis is the resolution of contradictions, is a dialectical process. This resolution of contradictions is a dialectical process. And this I3 is the synthesis for one age. But that is not the last point. Then I3 into I4 will be I5. I5. It will go on as long as story of mankind continues. So history is endless. History is nothing but history of the spirit, transformed through resolution of contradictory ideas. People understand contradictory ideas and their resolution, but I would say that understanding is not really proper. Not many understand that synthesis is somehow conveys both thesis and antithesis, and the contradictions are apparent. And moreover, this dialectical process is about the spirit, not about a particular country. So, spirit evolves through this process. So, Buddhist idea plus dialectics. So that's what about phenomenology of spirit. So that's one idea. Let us take to second idea. Second idea is based on Buddhist self-resolution. Buddha proposed that there is ego, and ego finally dissolves in universe. This is supposed to be nirvana. This is individual consciousness. Melts. Melts in the universal consciousness. This concept is different. It's not being like less selfish. Jesus asked us to be less selfish, be kind. But Buddhist concept of self-dissolution is different. It is a dissolution of self. It's not about being kind, being less selfish, but absence of self itself. And how is it supposed to be absent according to Buddhism? Dissolves in the universe, with the universal consciousness. So separative consciousness is supposed to end. So that is a Buddhist idea. But Hegel adds his own modifications to this. He somehow comes to think, which I think is wrong, that individual consciousness can dissolve, but through certain stages. So, individual, family, community. So, self identifies itself first with family, next with community, and next nation state, and then the universe. Buddha didn't propose these stages, but Hegel did. So, family. So, it means a person should feel one with the family first, and next with the community, more evolved with the nation, and then in the end, universe itself. So, Hegel thought that ego disappearance, that is disappearance of separative consciousness, this religious idea, can be done through certain stages like this, 3, 4. So a man should be a family man first, and next community man, and then next national state. Then with the universe. And by then, ego dissolves. Okay. So, when Buddha glorified individual self-dissolution, Hegel ended up glorifying individual self, merging with that of nation-state. So, something really strange happened here. Buddha wanted self to disappear. Nirvana. Hegel, self to merge with the collective. My nation, my community. But I don't think this is right at all. I don't think this Hegel can interpret from this. No. I would say this is ego enlargement. Nothing to do with self-resolution. Ego enlargement and nothing to do with self-resolution. So, using Buddhism as a framework, Hegel in the end glorified nation-state. As if one identifies oneself with a nation-state, it is going to lead to a higher path. I think he's wrong. Okay, let me see how I look at it. So the idea that you evolve when you identify yourself with the family first and then the community and then the nation, I think it is wrong. The idea of self-dissolution, the idea of self-dilution is about how you deal with the other. The other can be family member, the other can be other caste, other community, other nation state. So it's about understanding the other. It can be your wife or husband, it can be your caste, or it can be Pakistan. It is not that if you evolve first, you will be a family man and then community man and then the nation's citizen. So if you hate, you will hate at any level. If you love, you love any level. If the self is diluted, it is diluted at any level. If self is strong, it is strong at any level. So Buddhist idea of self-dissolution is different from Hegel's idea, which I think is self-enlargement. Self-enlargement. So what Buddha said was wrongly applied in Hegelian philosophy. The idea of self-dissolution, the idea of self-merging with the universe became collective glorification, which is at the center of communist or socialist systems. So you see both Rousseau and Hegel spoiled him through inequalities and with least regard to individual rights. Rousseau influenced Marx. And collective glorification is there here. But I don't know how much Marx took this idea from Hegel. Books insist that there is another line of influence. But all three went about glorifying the collective. Communism, nation state, and general will. These people shaped 20th century world. So what is there for us in ethics? A man is ethical to the extent that he is following or merging with higher collective. That is what Hegel's idea of ethics is. So, if you are a family man, you are somewhat evolved. Community man, more so. Nation state, higher. So, ethics is group ethics. Culture. Good. What is considered good? Ethics is what is considered good by the group. So, what is ethics is cultural. It is group specific, collectivity specific. So, when is man ethical? When he is following the norms of the group. When he is more evolved. When he is able to identify with a larger group. And to Hegel, alienation is something, man's inability to identify with a larger group. A man is alienated within the family if he doesn't identify himself with the family. Man is alienated as a citizen if he can't identify himself with nation, state. So ethics is group ethics. Man should orient himself, melt himself in the collective. So his evolution is like that. Hegel didn't think much of individual ethics or individual conscience. Hegel only thought of what is relevant for the group and the collective. And more evolved man is, higher the collective he will identify himself with. What do I think of all of this? It is wrong. So hopelessly these people